right. Just trying to make sure my sound can all be heard. All right. Just trying to make sure my sound can all be heard. All right. So I saw everyone Pride in here earlier. Sorry about that, Matt. Oh, that's a 113. Jeez. But yeah, basically, I'm just gonna be breaking down the 49ers Lions game. Like you guys are gonna be seeing me break it down, and it's gonna be live. Like we're both gonna kind of be. You guys are gonna see me literally like have my reactions to everything and all that and compare it. And yeah, so one Pride back when he was in here at 113. Hey, remember when Rams House said Penei Sewell might be going to left tackle sooner or later? Well, how about week one? Yeah. I mean, yeah, very true. Really unfortunate about Decker's injury, but it'll be interesting. Google Slides. My 49ers versus Lions. So it kind of changes into a different format because I had a commenter whose name I literally cannot pronounce talk about how we didn't like the old format that I would have with like Google Docs and everything else. And so I'm trying to do maybe this, and a couple people are telling me they couldn't see so well. So I'm hoping with the bigger font that Google Slides has for us that it will work better. So here we go. Straight into sharing my screen. Here we go. Hey Don, welcome to the live, man. It's actually 8:34 where I'm at, but I guess yeah. It's never too late to get some Lions talking. And ironically, I was trying to do this at like 4:05 today, but like every time I've tried to do a live today, it's just been like splattered of like no, denied. But I guess I don't have to worry about like competing with like Luke or anyone on coming on live and having to try to compete for the viewership here. So I have all of my slides up here. So like QB battle, running back battle, O line battle, which is going to be, I have a feeling it's not going to be as fun to look at now that Taylor Decker is gone. So let's start with the quarterback battle. We got Jimmy G. So let's go over start with the opponents. San Francisco's quarterback. Let's compare their latest seasons as like I would say full time. So Jared Goff. Sorry, Jimmy Garoppolo's latest season. I'm gonna try to give him a good starter like timetable because he has had injury issues. Last year, because Jimmy Garoppolo, of course, he's never healthy. He played 6 games. So let's start. Really, the only season where he's a legitimate starter is in 2019. It's the only time he's ever healthy and always playing. So I was trying to think, okay, so how can I make this fair? Because, Goff's bound to have more yards or touchdowns or maybe even more picks, but maybe even more yards per throw. I mean, what's a fair comparison? And so I'm just got to use his elite. Practically elite 2019 year as an example. But that's really his only time as a starter. So I decided, considering the fact that Jimmy Garoppolo gets hurt all the time, and he only has one sample size, And he's also statistically actually not been that great of a quarterback in San Francisco. 2017, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. 2018, 5 touchdowns, 3 picks. 2020, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. He's been kind of a really lucky game manager during his time in San Francisco. And his quarterback, he's only had one season of a good quarterback rating. He's actually had a 90 in 2018, and last year he had a 92.4. So I'm going to just compare their best seasons, considering the fact they both have had in and outs. And I'm going to go with the assumption that both sides of this fan spectrum thinks, okay, we're going to get the better quarterback. So I'm going to try and improve in the zoom size a bit for you guys because I can kind of tell it's already a bit hard to see. Boom, boom. Is that better to see for y'all? One more time. Yeah, it's nice and big. So Jimmy G, his best season was 2019 with a 69 point. It was 1%. Yeah, 1% completion percentage. He had himself a 3,978 yard season with 27 touchdowns to 13 INTs. That's a good year. With 102 quarterback rating, might I add. 102 rating. So this is Jimmy Garoppolo's best season in his NFL career. He honestly was a good quarterback for the most part. He did have 8.4 yards per throw. So now let's compare Jared Goff's best season. Jared Goff. Oops. Good old laptops. Jared Goff's best season. Well, what's his best season? Well, it's quite easily this 2018 season, where he had 4,000, and where he started out with a 64% completion percentage. So that piece is worse than the 4.9, so kind of round that up to 65. But completion percentage, 4,688 yards, 32 touchdowns, to I believe it was 12? Yeah, 12 interceptions. And he himself 101 quarterback rating. I was kind of looking at these. Okay, so they both got their advantages and disadvantages looking at the team. And Jared Goff had 8.4 yards per throw versus 8.4 versus Jimmy Garoppolo in 2019. So their yards per throw were even. So even if Jimmy Garoppolo gets as many throws as Jared Goff did in 2018, they still would have had the same yards. Jimmy Garoppolo, despite having less throws, did have more interceptions. And Jimmy Garoppolo also did not have the touchdown ratio. But he did have a better quarterback rating. So overall, these two are pretty even in their best season statistically. But overall, I will say they both had even very similar situations. They both had offensive-minded geniuses head coaches at the time. So really, these two both in their max season were kind of the best, but Jimmy Garoppolo was like statistically slightly worse. But I will say this: there is advanced stats that these two that are differing. Jared Goff was at one point the number one. I believe it was 2018 was the number one quarterback in play action, and Goff at least has durability. He's only really had last year where he had any real time of injury. So I think the quarterback battle goes to the Lions. Because even in the recent seasons, Jimmy G still had the terrible touchdown pick ratio. His rating was barely better than Goff. They were still pretty even, other than maybe yards per throw. Jimmy G also had better O-line. In my opinion, better coach. So, quarterback battle, I'm giving to the Lions. Running back battle. So, this one's going to be hard because you have to do depth as well. So, for example, I'm going to use some other teams for example. The New England Patriots have Damien Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. And neither, in my opinion, I think, are better than Joe Mixon. But since those two are both there, and since they're a duo, I have to give it to them as long as the depth is good enough to match the talent. Like, well. So let's start with the 49ers. Raheem Mostert. So with Raheem Mostert, he's an interesting case on how you should compare him. Because last year was only real start of the year. But I feel like it's a good year because I do believe he had around 5 yards per carry. Yeah, he did. He had 5 yards per carry. But he's had a lack of attempts in his NFL career. But I thought this is actually kind of perfect. DeAndre Swift, our starting running back, did not have lots of carries last year. So this is absolutely perfect to compare. So if we go here, let's start with Mostert. So in 8 games played, he had 104 attempts, and it's got him 521 yards. Got him 2 touchdowns. It's got him 5 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. Okay. And he had himself 156 yards receiving, and 1 receiving touchdown. Those are pretty good numbers for Raheem Mostert. Had he played the whole year and started with 16 games, he probably would have had an 1,000-yard year. The only lack of concern is his touchdowns. Only having 2 touchdowns in 8 games is not exactly amazing. So that does make me question if he's actually that good in the red zone. And so who's his backup? So I'm only going to be carrying the first 2. I'm not going to be comparing the third and fourth. So Trey Sermon, I believe, is the backup. Trey Sermon. I'm going to move this font to black so that way you guys can see this better. I just look at Trey Sermon. And so I decided, okay, how good was this guy truly in college? Granted, I do know that last year was only real starting year. In his starting year, as for the Bucks, the guy had himself a pretty solid season. We had 870 yards, 7.5 yards per carry, and 4 touchdowns on 116 rushing attempts. Now, granted, a lot of the stat was inflated, considering the fact he had 29 carries, 331 yards, 11.4 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns versus Northwestern. You kind of can't hold that against him. So I can't really compare Trey Sermon for that reason. He's a rookie. It's like me comparing Amon-Ra St. Brown versus Debo. You can't do it. You have to give the edge to Debo. So I'm going to try to give myself the most accurate, unbiased statistical prediction of what he'll have this year. I'm going to go 490 yards and about 4.6 yards per carry and 4 touchdowns. A solid season. He's going to be behind Mostert, so he won't get all the carries in the world. But I do think he might be using the red zone situations pretty often, considering the fact Mostert's had those. So that's just my prediction. Sermon could have way better stats or worse. So now let's go to DeAndre Swift. Good old buddy DeAndre Swift. So DeAndre Swift on 114 carries had 521 yards, 8 rushing touchdowns, and 4.6 yards per carry. And he had himself 57 receiving yards and 3 receiving touchdowns, I believe. No, 2. 2 TDs. So looking at DeAndre's success, this is a pretty good running back here. He himself 13 games, the same amount of yards as Mostert, less yards per carry, but he did have far more touchdowns. 10 touchdowns to Mostert's 3. So Swift establishes himself as a receiving threat. And I do have to note this. DeAndre Swift did not start to Washington. He didn't get real carries till versus Jacksonville, kind of. So that is to know. And he did play behind a worse line compared to Mostert. So I'm going to give the starting running back edge to the Lions. But what about a rotation? Well, Jamal Williams, our backup. Player that we've honestly kind of been loving over here in Detroit. He's been infectious in energy. He's been fun to kind of observe, be the locker room leader. And so now, what were his stats? Oh, hey, kind of similar to oh, wow. I thought he only had 400 yards. Last year he had 505 yards and 2 touchdowns. So kind of a similar year to Mostert. He did have 236 yards and 1 touchdown. But Williams did have far less yards per carry. He did have 4.2. Sermon was better than Williams, according to my own stats. Now, the big thing that makes Williams better is that the fact he could catch. Sermon, I do not think is going to be a catching back in the NFL. So the running back battle goes to the Lions. And here's where it gets a bit more interesting. O-line battle. So how do you compare O-lines? I was thinking about this. There's no statistics for run blocking, and there's only sacks, but sacks can always be. I'm more someone who generally blames a lineman for sacks. It's not always an lineman's fault. There are sacks. Sometimes you have an example of Tennessee was sack versus Buffalo, where it was Big V's fault. Or sometimes it's the quarterback holding onto the ball too long, or accidentally running into his teammate, and then getting sacked. It's not always on that. So I didn't really know how to do this. And so then I kind of thought, okay, I'm going to give it to San Francisco, but I'm going to give you reasons. So there's not going to be statistics here. Besides for the fact I'm going to list career accomplishments as statistics. Frank Ragnow was voted as the best center in football by NFL executives. Okay, so we got the center spot over Alex Mack. Jones Jackson, all right. He was our all-rookie lineman. Left guard, okay. What else do we got? Okay. We got Big V. Big V was horrible last year. He has no provability. So the 49ers right guard spot is better. Even in the sack numbers. So I was thinking, okay, so we lose the right guard spot. Right tackle. So I could have given right tackle to the Detroit Lions had Taylor Decker still been active. But with the sounds like Penei Sewell moving to left tackle after the injury of Taylor Decker, it's Sewell versus Mike McGlinchey. But how good was Mike McGlinchey last year? That's my thing, is I know he had a down year. So I was kind of thinking, okay, even if Mike McGlinchey had a down year, he's still the vet. Sewell was unproven. Sewell hasn't played in the whole year. Not only that, he's younger than the average NFL player. And he's switching to a position at the time would have been right tackle. So even if Sewell was there, it would not have mattered. But now that Matt Nelson's going to be our right tackle 100%. Matt Nelson does have the nice career accomplishment of shutting down Khalil Mack, but we've seen him in a little time, and he did struggle in the preseason. So, right tackle, and left tackle Trent Williams versus Sewell, it's not even you can't even dream of giving the Lions the O-line battle after Taylor Decker's injury. So, career accomplishments go and give the 49ers the better O-line. receiver battle. So this one's actually one I'm very excited to talk about. So the 49ers receivers are Debo. We're going to go for their first three. So Debo is kind of like their biggest name. He's easily the most popular and kind of most known. So I'm going to be using advanced stats for this one because I think advanced stats reveal how good a receiver is more than base stats do. I'm still going to use base stats, but this is something I'm going to do. Tyrell Williams. Okay, so I'm going to be using their latest seasons. Yo, what up, Omar? Welcome to the live, man. Sorry if I don't notice you, by the way. Like, guys, immediately as like I'm going in here, I am, of course, typing in here, and I can't type on there in the live, so hope I can see y'all. Okay, so Debo, he gets himself last year. Oh dear, he gets hurt. So let's use his 2019 year. Debo had himself a 70% completion percentage, 802 yards, and 3 touchdowns, averaging I think it was 11 yards per throw or 10 yards. He averaged 14. Sorry, excuse me. That was last year. He got 11. 14 yards per catch. So that's Debo's stats. All good. Great to know, Omar. But then you go to his quarterback rating. He had 109.2. And 9 drops. So overall, Debo was honestly fairly productive. Late to the party. Welcome, my guy. So I've switched. Okay, actually, you were here the other day with the comment. I hope you like this. I've kind of switched it up to the slides and see if that fits more better. Kind of have it more presentable. But next, we move to Brandon Aiyuk. I think I spelled his name right. There we go. We go to Brandon Aiyuk. He had himself a pretty good year. 12 games. 748 yards per catch. Sorry, not per catch. Gotta love myself for that. Oh geez. So he had 60 catches, which led to 748 yards. 5 touchdowns. Catch percentage of 62%. Yikes on that. Yikes on that one, man. Now, his yards per catch, actually pretty solid. It's 12.5. That's what I was mixing up for Debo earlier. And he only had himself I think it was either 1 or 2 drops when I was looking at this team earlier this year. Or it was 5 drops. I was completely off. 5 drops. And he had himself an 86 quarterback rating. 86.6 rating. So looking at this, that's a pretty solid receiver core. Question marks about the catch percentages. One is a good rating, one is a bad rating. They kind of have drop issues, and total together they have 5+ drops each. So now we got to move on to the Detroit Lions, kind of with our top receivers. And so let's move to the Lions. Tyrell Williams, our top guy. Tyrell Williams had himself a 65.6% completion percentage. Himself 15 yards per catch. Yes, 15.5, sorry. 15.5 yards per catch. 651 yards. 6 touchdowns. His quarterback rating his way was 110.9. So, if we look here, Tyrell compared to both receivers. Okay, well, his catch percentage was better than Brandon Ayuk. His yards per catch was better than both. He did have the better quarterback rating. But he also had less yards, but he had more touchdowns than both. So I'd say Tyrell's about even with them. I will say this, though. I do think if Tyrell gets necessary targets, he'll be much better than both. Due to the fact he's had an 1,000-yard year, but that's just my opinion, not statistics. I'm kind of basing off the recency. So, I am kind of in confusion who our number 2 receiver is. I've heard it's Kalif Raymond. I've heard it's Quintez Cephus. I don't know. But since news articles have said it's Kalif Raymond, that concerns me. If it's Quintez Cephus, like some other news articles are telling me, I don't know, but there's still even some that are saying Trinity Benson's our number 3 now. Amon-Ra's our second. So I have no idea who our number 2 receiver is, despite trying my hardest to figure it out. So I'm going to go with Raymond since I think the Detroit Lions roster spot had him as a number 2. So this is where our receiver core is not as good as I think it would be. Raymond has a career. This is his career best. 9 catches, 187 yards, 20.8 yards per catch, and 0 touchdowns. But I'm like, okay, I am not doing Raymond. I'm going to do our slot receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Because I know for a fact that Raymond's not going to produce. I know for a fact there's no way he's truly going to be our number 2. I refuse to believe that just because he had a good training camp or whatever, that he's going to be that spot. So, Amon-Ra. Okay, so how can I possibly compare him? Kind of can't, like I said. You can only project. But my thing is, you have to project a rookie very not so negatively, but also not positively. You have to give him the most in the middle view. Especially with Amon-Ra's preseason play, how he did in the offseason, and you have to take into account of how he did in college. I heard they plan to use Trinity Benson. Oh yeah, I do know that. I have no idea what our receiver corps is going to look like. I honestly, I've actually heard that technically the only person who's a set receiver is Tyrell. And then we're just going to mix and use all our receivers in a way, which I do think I kind of like. But for now, I'm going to go, if there is a depth chart, that our second best receiver is Amon-Ra. I'm going to go with 53 catches, 508 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Catch percentage of 64, because he was really good at that in college. And a rating of 98. And 3 drops, no, 4 drops, no, 3, he generally had that down enough. 3 drops, and yeah, and he had himself 12 yards per catch. Excuse me, This is the most I can give you. I wish I could use Cephus, but he didn't even start over Amon-Ra in the preseason or camp. So I know he's not going to be our second best because I don't even know if he's playing. I'm going to give the 49ers receivers the win of statistics, but I will say in my projections, the Lions are going to have far better receiver core than the 49ers. I'll just tell you that. So stats, current, we say, 49ers. But I project the Lions to be better. But for now, it's going to be the 49ers. Currently, I will tell you in the future, on the film I've watched, Monroe's going to be even better than this. I know Tyrell's going to be better than this. The tight end battle. It all depends on how good everyone thinks Hockenson will be. I do want to ask you guys, what are your guys' statistic predictions for TJ Hockenson? But if we're going to go based off of last year, TJ was not as good as George Kittle's latest starting season. He didn't have 1,000 yards. He didn't have the same blocking, so it's there. But TJ was still a top 5 tight end. So let's compare. 49ers again. George Kittle, who's obviously better than TJ Hockenson. I'm saying this. I'm not saying that they are the same player or as bad, whatever. I'm saying... Sorry, my computer's just lagging. I'm saying that George Kittle had himself 1,053 yards and 5 touchdowns. 53, 5 Ds. He's also rated as the number 1 blocker. Number 1 blocker. I was like, who the frick is the backup tight end for the 49ers? Like, I generally know these things. I think it's Garrett Selleck still. But he's not even there when I go and check. It's a guy named Ross Dwelley. I don't know this guy at all. Statistics, kind of bad. Oh, geez, you guys got some comments in here. Organic feud. Is DeAndre Swift really the truth? He is the truth. So long as he's not a criminal, apparently. But I don't believe him at all. I'll talk about that later if y'all read. He's just psychologically using his mind to get me to read his comment. Hockenson will be disappointing in his overall statistics because they will use him as a decoy. Their schemes work off the tight end. I do think that is a very big possibility. I think he could be used very similar to how the 49ers use Kittle due to the fact they don't have any good receivers. And maybe I even think a bit like Mark Andrews. CJ, Mosley, and Kindler are most likely... CB Mosley and Kindler are most likely on Sunday. Thanks for telling me that. I don't think Kettle will play a whole season again. Maybe he won't. Maybe he won't. They lost Sherman or dealing with injuries. Receiver TJ first. Okay. Caught up with the comments. Dwelley, his stats are so irrelevant that I'm not even putting them on here. It's 245 yards and a touchdown. Now let's go to the Lions real quick. Do the Lions have the depth? Is TJ Hockenson close enough to Kittle's level? And is our backup tight end Fells enough to say our tight end core in itself better? So I went to TJ Hockenson. And his stats. Okay, what is the man, the myth, the legend, T.J. Hawkinson? Probably the most popular player on the Detroit Lions. So he had himself 723 yards, 10 yards per catch, 6 touchdowns. He was rated as the third best blocker from what I heard. Okay. That's a pretty dang great tight end. So let's go to Darren Fells. These would be the deciding factors. Darren Fells had himself 312 yards and 4 TDs and 14 yards per catch. 14 yards per catch. Top 5 blocker from what I'm told. And in my conclusion, if TJ Hawkinson is to get any better than last year, as everyone projects, and considering the fact that the team has talked about using him more, the Lions have the better tight end core. TJ Hawkinson's numbers were still good last year, and even Fells were last year. He's been a consistent player the last 2 years. This gives us the better overall tight end core. So the tight end battle goes to the Detroit Lions, to my surprise. That concludes the offense. The Lions won the quarterback battle, running back battle, lost the O-line battle, currently losing the receiver battle, and won the tight end battle. So now we move on to the front seven. So I am not going to be talking about each team's 5 tech players. Or extra defensive tackle, I guess. With Michael Brockers on the unsure list, and the 49ers losing Jalen Kinlaw, I will not be comparing those two. I will be comparing Aleem McNeil and DJ Jones, and I'll be comparing Nick Bosa to Romeo, Trey to D Ford, and then there's that last end spot of Nick Williams versus Eric Armstead. So I guess let's get started. So let's start with the exciting one, Romeo Okwara. I'm sorry, no, never mind. You gotta start with the 49ers players. Nick Bosa. And Nick Bosa was a freaking animal in his rookie year. 47 tackles, 9 sacks, 25 QB hits, 45 quarterback pressures. This guy was insane. He had 16 tackles for loss in that same year, too. Jeez, I did not know that until looking at that now. That's a good end. That's an elite end. And probably a lot of his sacks were taken away from, at the time, fellow good D lineman in 2019. So now we move on to DJ Jones. DJ Jones, BFR. He last year had himself 20 tackles. Oh, it's 21. 20 tackles. 3 sacks, 3 QB hits, and getting himself a grand total of 6 QB pressures. Granted, DJ Jones, like Lee McNeil, is a nose tackle. You're not always going to be seeing lots of stats from these guys. That's just kind of my note here. Now we're going to Eric Armstead. And geez, this guy just disappoints me. I remember looking at him earlier. He comes out 49 tackles. Three sacks. 13 QB hits. And got himself grand total 23 quarterback pressures. He's a solid player. He's not the player I thought he was, too. I will admit that. Now, D Ford. So D Ford's an interesting case. His only action in San Francisco was 13 games. So it makes sense because now I can kind of use that 2019 season with Trey Flowers in there. I know he played 11 games where he had 14 tackles, 6 sacks, 6 QB hits, and got himself a grand total of 16 QB pressures. Ugh. So this is kind of our front 7, but not looking at the inside linebackers yet. What's up, Joseph? Nice to see you in here. Kind of just breaking down the game stats-wise. You guys are seeing my kind of live reaction in this, Joseph. This is me, like, kind of live reaction of kind of how I break down games. And kind of comparing stats-wise. And I'm also going to use a bit of my own projections when I talk about each thing. So, for the kind of like the outside linebacker line, this is kind of there for the San Francisco 49ers. We're not going to be comparing Brockers and Kinlaw or Brockers and somebody else or whatever due to injuries. So now we move on to the Lions. Romeo, oh Romeo, where art thou, Romeo? Romeo Okwara. He had himself, honestly, a good year last year. A really good year. 44 tackles. 10 sacks. 18 QB hits. And he also got himself 31 QB pressures. He got himself also 11 tackles for loss. Analytical Radman. Oh yeah, it's very analytical today, guys. And I'll just be doing a live tomorrow where you guys can actually like ask me questions. I'm actually gonna try to bring in a friend. You guys will see who it is, maybe a friend or two. And we're just gonna talk the game on Sunday. About the game Sunday. So Romeo gets himself 44 tackles, 10 sacks, QB hit, 18 QB hits. So that's a pretty good number. It's kind of comparable to Nick. Not as quite as good as Nick, but still good compared to Nick. And then we have to move on to our own Nicky boy, Nick Williams. And I'm going to say this. I'm going to do his Chicago year. And you may ask, why am I doing his Chicago year? The reason I'm doing his Chicago year is because that was the one year that he was using the position that he fit and that he's playing currently right now, which is 3-tech. So, I'm going to use his Chicago Bears stats, where he played 3-tech and had success. So that is my reasoning, and that's honestly where I think Nick Williams can maybe recover and play. Joseph Murdoch says Brockers will be helping Romeo getting to the QB. Facts. Let's just hope he's healthy tomorrow. He's been in and out. So Nick Williams, his Bears year. Nick Williams. What was his stats during the Bears year? 42 tackles, 6 sacks, 9 QB hits, 12 QB pressures, and he got himself 5 tackles for loss. So this is Lions will use Hawkinson and run past to get the 49ers to believe they're afraid to throw it along. Once their line figures out how to give Goff time, they would check it Air Corral later. Oh, see you later, my guy. I need to figure out a way to pronounce your name. I'm just gonna call you O1. See you later, O1. Oh, actually, never mind. You're not saying goodbye. I think you're saying they would check out Air Corral, like air attack later in the game. Okay, that's what you meant. I think. I can't tell. Yeah, so Nick, that's a pretty good stat line. My projections is I think he'll be moving on to 40 tackles, 4 sacks, 5 QB hits, kind of 10-ish, 9-ish pressures like he had last year. So then we move on to Trey Flowers, probably the most hated player in the Lions fan base. Probably for the reason of the money, nothing more. Ugh. Trey himself, we're going to compare his 2019 form because if you're going to give the injury out to D, I'm going to give the Trey Flowers injury out too because Trey was hurt to begin the season with a surgery. He was not 100% full strength until end of season. So 51 tackles for Trey, 7 sacks, 21 QB hits. Wow, 21. I did not know that. 21 QB hits. Along with a good old 35 QB pressures. That's a pretty dang good year. He also got himself 2 forced fumbles, but I didn't compare the forced fumble numbers earlier. But it's pretty good. And he had 8 tackles for loss. So then we have the question mark about Aleem McNeil. Levio, Brockers, and Nick Williams. Yeah, we actually got ourselves a pretty good fight tech. Brockers actually plays fight tech. The problem that I have with doing Brockers is I actually have no idea if he's playing. He's been listed as questionable and has been in and out within our team. So I'm going to wait and compare Brockers to like another player later on. Very true. I'd love to see that. Hopefully Levi gets real playing time. I think he's better than Nick Williams. So this is kind of the front 7 battle. So then we got Aleem McNeil. And Aleem McNeil is a rookie. And I'm going to project him to the exact same stats as D. Jones, except the 1 last sack. 20 tackles, 2 sacks, 2 QB hits. I do think he'll have 7 QB pressures. I will say this. I think Lee McNeil is going to be a lot better than that. I think Lee McNeil is going to be the best rookie nose tackle in the draft. And last year's draft. I think he'll be better than any nose tackle in that last draft. But, like I said, never give too high of a prediction using said player. So, comparing these pass rushes, we're going to move on to inside linebackers another slide. I don't want it to be too small. Our outside linebacker and D line, I can confidently say, is better than the San Francisco 49ers. The San Francisco 49ers in this D line, not one of them is better than Trey Flowers. And Romeo has very closer stats to Nick Bosa, playing with the worst defense in franchise history and no secondary. Trey Flowers had practically the exact same problem. And now he's actually got Romeo to play with. He's got Brockers in there possibly, but I'm not going to bring him in. Now he's got a good nose tackle and lean. Possibly better secondary, better coaches. More aggressive scheme. For sure. For sure. So then we kind of go into the inside of the linebackers. And I'm going to say this. Pre-looking at them, I think 49ers are going to win it. They got Fred Warner. And Jamie Collins does not have Fred Warner's stats. I'm already looking at the base stats and the advanced stats, and Jamie Collins has nothing on him. And looking at Alex Anzalone, he's got nothing on Dre Greenlaw either. So I'm just going to give the 49ers a dub here. Dre Greenlaw had 86 tackles and a sack last year. Didn't allow a touchdown in most out of his 3-year career. Alex Anzalone was great in yards per target in two out of his 3 years in New Orleans. He didn't allow a touchdown, but he's not. It's the tackle numbers of Dre Greenlaw. So 49ers get the dub. Facts. I love that, Joseph. Some cornerback battle. Okay. Jeff's got nothing on Verrett. So Lions already got CB1. Anyway, as we know, Okudah was honestly the worst cornerback in football. Don't even need to compare Verrett. CB2, that's where it's going to be interesting. Amanio versus Williams. And they're like the same player, man. I mean, Kwan Williams and Amanio are both very similar players. In most of their career. Besides for last year. Because he didn't play. But so we're going to compare his 2019 year. Where he had a 68% completion percentage. So we're going to go Williams. Wow. Williams, 68%. And he was 68.9, so you could round that to 69. Honestly. 364 yards. 1 TD allowed. Got himself 51 tech. Got himself 51 tackles. Oh my gosh, dude. Ads are ridiculous. Stop moving. Okay. 51 tackles. 4 forced fumbles. I've never repeated that success in 2015. and 2 interceptions. As a coverage player, Williams is worse than Amanio, who has himself a 59% completion percentage. Three touchdowns allowed. 854 yards. But he has 59 tackles. 53, actually. I got that off just by a bit. 53 tackles and only 1 interception. CB battle goes to the San Francisco 49ers. CB goes to the 49ers. Sad to say. And I'm not even going to look statistically for this. I was kind of looking at it a bit earlier. Wow, that was just sad by me. We can't compare the current Detroit Lions safeties. Tracy had a good 2019 and off 2020. He's had a good year off. Will Harris has had been very sucky bust. You cannot compare him to any safety. So going to get the safety spots as 49ers until the Lions safeties prove us wrong. So 49ers default win. Kicker battle, once again, Sideburns never played. 49ers default win. Now, we also win the punter job because Jack Fox is the best punter in the NFL. We all know this. So let's compare. How many positions did the Detroit Lions win compared to the San Francisco 49ers? We won the quarterback battle, running back battle, tight end battle, front seven battle, especially if Brockers is healthy. And we won the punter battle. And in my opinion, I think we have better receivers once we actually see real film. Possibly 6. We are possibly better than 6 and definitely better than 5. Healthy, possibly 7. We have a very good chance to win this game. This is not a game I'm saying that we're definitely going to win anymore. Taylor Decker's injury really, really hinders that for me. Especially if Brockers doesn't play. But I think we can win this game 24-17 or 21-17. I legitimately do. Matt Nelson shut down Khalil Mack before. I think he can handle Arik Armstead. Penei Sewell is still in the generational left tackle from Oregon. He has potential to find, and he's got TJ Hawkinson probably to help him unblock Nick Bosa sometimes. And he's moving over to the easier left side with Jonah Jackson being there as a guard instead of the terrible big V. I think we can win this game. There's stats to prove it. We have the positional battles. And we could potentially be better. That's in my breakdown. This is my statistics breakdown, and now that I see that some guys in the chat, I'm willing to go and take your guys' questions and your comments now. McNeil's a good player. Love that. It's cool. It's going to be cool. I like what you did there. Like Kool-Aid. Cool seeing the Gore brothers on the field. Same play. Who gets the sack? I honestly gotta say, I think it would be Julian. Now, the reason I say I think it's going to be Julian is because I think people are expecting Romeo. I think Romeo's going to be double teamed. And if Julian and Romeo are out, I think Julian can get that sack. It's going to be interesting if Julian gets to playing time due to the fact that Trey and Romeo are out there. But I do think it's a big possibility. Romeo starts, Julian back him up. Cool. Oh, yeah. Joseph says, better special teams, better QB, better line, better running backs. Ty goes to the tight ends. The Lions win. Oh, yeah. Big facts, man. And the fact is, our tight ends could win. I don't know about a better O-line, but only if it was healthy. The 49ers do have the better O-line. But I do think we can definitely win this game. We are not going to get blown out like NFL Network has us getting for every single game. I don't think the 49ers are built to blow us out. I think they're built to be maybe competitive every game, but not to blow us out. I mean, some people might say, oh, this is absolutely impossible. You're the Detroit Lions. We just saw the Dallas Cowboys honestly should have beaten the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If their kicker could actually kick a field goal and CeeDee Lamb doesn't drop a football that comes into his hands, the Cowboys beat the reigning Super Bowl champs led by Tom Brady. Crazy things happen in the NFL every year. We can definitely win. Glad you agree, Joseph. I'm glad you agree. I've got the Lions to cover. I think we can win, man. I definitely think we can win. I will say this. After Decker's injury, question mark at the inside linebackers, and improvability in the secondary, don't expect too much. Our line, question mark with Nelson and Sewell. And McVee, question mark with our secondary. But we really do got a chance to win this game. All we got to ask is that our team is competitive and we don't lose stupidly. Sewell will be solid left tackle. I honestly think Sewell will be perfectly fine left tackle. I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I don't even think Penei Sewell played a single bad game in the preseason. I rewatched this film. One play does not determine if a tackle is playing bad. The fact that Pro Football Focus graded him so low is an example of trying to be popular in the mainstream media. His sack versus Buffalo was on 100% on Big V, and the fact that Jared Goff literally just got tapped in and was like, oh, well, I guess I'm going down. And his second game, he allowed one pressure, and that was it. Third game, yeah, I would say his third game was his worst game, but he still had like one or two bad plays. This guy hasn't played in a year, and not only that, it's not like he's a 21-year-old or a senior coming out of college and getting drafted. This guy is 20 years old entering this league, hasn't played in a year, switched positions right tackle, missed the beginning part of the offseason, and is now being asked to switch to left tackle. But even then, he also barely even played the preseason. There is nothing to make you worried about Sewell. Nothing. Nothing at all. But there's also going to be reason to say, okay, he definitely could struggle to begin the year. Yeah. So what else you guys want to talk about? Will the Lions bring up Bolden from the practice squad, the new 6'7" tackle? We got a new tackle? Hold up. I didn't hear about this. I've been hearing about the DeAndre Swift stuff and on Moback getting special team sponsor who we're facing. Practice squad. Spencer, 46, 41, 13. Yeah, nice. Will Holden. Do you mean Will Holden? He's a new guy we added. I think so, because I believe our only alignment that actually has backup experience was Matt Nelson. Let me look at our depth real quick. I don't know if we re-signed Tyrell Crosby or not, but I know Crosby's hurt for a bit. He's back. Nope, he's not even back. So yeah, we will probably bring in alignment. Yeah. There's also the possibility we move Big V to right tackle if the emergency situation requires it. That is actually his position that he was drafted in, and the position that he was initially signed to play, and the position he played in most of his NFL career. So that is our line situation. If Nelson Hurley, he can move to Big V to right tackle and Stenberg to guard. I will say, I really want to see Logan Stenberg at guard. I was a big fan of Logan Stenberg at the guard, but I actually believe Stenberg might be hurt. If I recall correctly, he got hurt. Oh, nope, looks like he's all healed up. I would love to see that, honestly. I'm not a huge fan of Nelson. He's 297 pounds, or at least was. I don't know if he still is. Is he still? But I will say this: Nelson is not a bad lineman. Don't let the preseason fool you. This guy's gotten praise from T.J. Hawkinson, and Fraley. He shut down Khalil Mack. He's made the team twice in a year now. This is a good lineman. This is a player who can still do it. He's not going to get wrecked. I'm excited to see what happens Sunday. All right, so I will be doing the live Q&A tomorrow. Do you guys got any more questions or? Problem is, Big V knows scheme my guard. Very true. All right. Well, I will be seeing you guys later. I'm going to do live Q&A with a friend. Maybe two, if I can get them. Both. And we're just going to be talking the game for Sunday. I will see you guys later. I hope you guys enjoyed this live. I hope it brought some idea into this. And yeah, I'll see you all later.